Santorini. Santorini is an island in the southern Aegean Sea, about 200 kilometers (120 miles) southeast from the Greek mainland. It is the largest island of a small, circular archipelago, which bears the same name and is the remnant of a volcanic caldera. It forms the southernmost member of the Cyclades group of islands, with an area of approximately 73 square kilometers, 28 square miles. The island was the site of one of the largest volcanic eruptions in recorded history, the Minoan eruption, sometimes called the Thera eruption, which occurred about 3,600 years ago at the height of the Minoan civilization. The eruption left a large caldera surrounded by volcanic ash deposits hundreds of meters deep. It may have led indirectly to the collapse of the Minoan civilization on the island of Crete, 110 kilometers, 68 miles, to the south, through a gigantic tsunami. Another popular theory holds that the Thera eruption is the source of the legend of Atlantis. Santorini has erupted many times, with varying degrees of explosivity. There have been at least 12 large explosive eruptions, of which at least 4 were caldera-forming. The most famous eruption is the Minoan eruption. Eruptive products range from basalt all the way to rhyolite, and the rhyolitic products are associated with the most explosive eruptions. The earliest eruptions, many of which were submarine, were on the Akrotiri Peninsula, and active between 650,000 and 550,000 years ago. These are geochemically distinct from the later volcanism, as they contain amphiboles. Over the past 360,000 years there have been 2 major cycles, each culminating with 2 caldera-forming eruptions. The cycles end when the magma evolves to a rhyolitic composition, causing the most explosive eruptions. In between the caldera-forming eruptions are a series of subcycles. Lava flows and small explosive eruptions build up cones, which are thought to impede the flow of magma to the surface. This allows the formation of large magma chambers, in which the magma can evolve to more silicic compositions. Once this happens, a large explosive eruption destroys the cone. The Kameni Islands in the center of the lagoon are the most recent example of a cone built by this volcano, with much of them hidden beneath the water. The devastating volcanic eruption of Thera around 1600 BC has become the most famous single event in the Aegean before the fall of Troy. It may have been one of the largest volcanic eruptions on Earth in the last few thousand years, with an estimated VE, volcanic explosivity index, of 6 according to the last studies published in 2006, confirming the prior values. The violent eruption was centered on a small island just north of the existing island of Nea Kameni in the center of the caldera. The caldera itself was formed several 100,000 years ago by the collapse of the center of a circular island, caused by the emptying of the magma chamber during an eruption. It has been filled several times by ignimbrite since then, and the process repeated itself, most recently 21,000 years ago. The northern part of the caldera was refilled by the volcano, then collapsed once more during the Minoan eruption. Before the Minoan eruption, the caldera formed a nearly continuous ring with the only entrance between the tiny island of Aspronisi and Thera. The eruption destroyed the sections of the ring between Aspronisi and Therasia, and between Therasia and Thera, creating 2 new channels. As with other Greek territories, Thera then was ruled by the Romans. When the Roman Empire was divided, the island passed to the eastern side of the empire, which today is known as the Byzantine Empire. Santorini was captured briefly by the Russians under Alexei Orlov during the Russo-Turkish War of 1768 to 1774, but returned to Ottoman control after. Following the outbreak of the Greek War of Independence on the Greek mainland in March 1821, in May Santorini followed suit, although the local Catholic population had its reservations. The island became part of the fledgling Greek state, rebelled against Governor Ioannis Kapodistrias in 1831, and became definitively part of the independent Kingdom of Greece in 1832, with the Treaty of Constantinople. During the Second World War, Santorini was occupied in 1941 by Italian forces, and in 1943 by those of the Germans. In 1944, the German and Italian garrison on Santorini was raided by a group of British Special Boat Service commandos, killing most of its men. 5 locals were later shot in reprisal, including the mayor. The Minoan eruption provides a fixed point for the chronology of the 2nd millennium BC in the Aegean, because evidence of the eruption occurs throughout the region and the site itself contains material culture from outside. The eruption occurred during the late Minoan Ya period at Crete and the late Cycladic I period in the surrounding islands. Archaeological evidence, based on the established chronology of Bronze Age Mediterranean cultures, dates the eruption to around 1500 BC. These dates, however, conflict with radiocarbon dating, which indicates that the eruption occurred at about 1645 to 1600 BC. For those, and other, reasons, the date of the eruption is disputed. Santorini remained unoccupied throughout the rest of the Bronze Age, during which time the Greeks took over Crete. At Knossos, in a Lemphia context, 14th century BC, 7 linear B texts while calling upon all the gods. Dorians founded the main Hellenic city on Massive Ono, 396 meters, 1,299 feet, above sea level. This group later claimed that they had named the city and the island after their leader, Theras. Today, that city is referred to as Ancient Thera. In his Argonautica, written in Hellenistic Egypt in the 3rd century BC, Apollonius Rhodius includes an origin and sovereignty myth of Thera being given by Crichton in Libya to the Greek Argonaut Euphemus, son of Poseidon, in the form of a clod of dirt. After carrying the dirt next to his heart for several days, Euphemus dreamt that he nursed the dirt with milk from his breast, and that the dirt turned into a beautiful woman with whom he had sex. The woman then told him that she was a daughter of Triton named Callist, and that when he threw the dirt into the sea it would grow into an island for his descendants to live on. The poem goes on to claim that the island was named Thera after Euphemus' descendant Theras, son of Autesian, the leader of a group of refugee settlers from Lemnos. The Dorians have left a number of inscriptions incised in stone, in the vicinity of the Temple of Apollo, attesting to pederastic relations between the authors and their lovers, Eromnoi. These inscriptions, found by Friedrich Hiller von Gartringen, have been thought by some archaeologists to be of a ritual, celebratory nature, because of their large size, careful construction and, in some cases, execution by craftsmen other than the authors. According to Herodotus, following a drought of 7 years, Thera sent out colonists who founded a number of cities in northern Africa, including Cyrene. In the 5th century BC, Dorian Thera did not join the Delian League with Athens, and during the Peloponnesian War, Thera sided with Dorian Sparta, against Athens. The Athenians took the island during the war, but lost it again after the Battle of Aigos Potami. During the Hellenistic period, the island was a major naval base for Ptolemaic Egypt. The Byzantine Empire, also referred to as the Eastern Roman Empire or Byzantium, was the continuation of the Roman Empire in its eastern provinces during late antiquity and the Middle Ages, when its capital city was Constantinople. It survived the fragmentation and fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century AD and continued to exist for an additional 1,000 years until it fell to the Ottoman Empire in 1453. During most of its existence, the empire was the most powerful economic, cultural, and military force in Europe. Pederasty in ancient Greece was a socially acknowledged romantic relationship between an older male, the Eurastes, and a younger male, the Eromenos, usually in his teens. It was characteristic of the Archaic and Classical periods. The influence of pederasty on Greek culture of these periods was so pervasive that it has been called the principal cultural model for free relationships between citizens. The name Santorini first appears circa 1153 to 1154 in the work of the Muslim geographer Al-Idrisi, as Santorin, from the island's patron saint, Saint Irene. After the Fourth Crusade, it was occupied by the Duchy of Naxos, which held it up to ca. 1280 when it was reconquered by Licario. The claims of earlier historians that the island had been held by Jacopo I Barozzi and his son as a fief have been refuted in the second half of the 20th century. It was again reconquered from the Byzantines ca. 1301 by Jacopo II Barozzi, a member of the Cretan branch of the Venetian Barozzi family, whose descendant held it until it was annexed in circa 1335 by Niccolò Sanudo after various legal and military conflicts. In 1318–1331 and 1345–1360 it was raided by the Turkish principalities of Mentish and Aden, but did not suffer much damage. From the 15th century on, the suzerainty of the Republic of Venice over the island was recognized in a series of treaties by the Ottoman Empire, but this did not stop Ottoman raids, until it was captured by the Ottoman Admiral Piyale Pasha in 1576, as part of a process of annexation of most remaining Latin possessions in the Aegean. It became part of the semi-autonomous domain of the Sultan's Jewish favorite, Joseph Nassi. Santorini retained its privileged position in the 17th century, but suffered in turn from Venetian raids during the frequent Ottoman-Venetian wars of the period, even though there were no Muslims on the island. The Barozzi were an aristocratic Venetian family. Members of the family became sailors, clerics and men of learning. They were lords of Santorini and Thracia, and held military fiefs on the island of Crete. Members of the family were involved in the conspiracy of Bagiamonte Tiepolo against the Doge of Venice in 1310. The Cyclades are part of a metamorphic complex that is known as the Cycladic Massif. The complex formed during the Miocene and was folded and metamorphosed during the Alpine orogeny around 60 million years ago. Thera is built upon a small, non-volcanic basement that represents the former non-volcanic highland, which was approximately 9 by 6 kilometers, 5.6 by 3.7 miles. The basement rock is primarily composed of metamorphosed limestone and schist, which date from the Alpine orogeny. These non-volcanic rocks are exposed at Microprophytitis Ilias, Massavono, the Gavrilos Ridge, Pyrgos, Monolithos, and the inner side of the caldera wall between Cape Plaka and Athinios. The metamorphic grade is a blueschist facies, which results from tectonic deformation by the subduction of the African plate beneath the Eurasian plate. Subduction occurred between the Oligocene and the Miocene, and the metamorphic grade represents the southernmost extent of the Cycladic blueschist belt.